Okay,
All right.
we're live. How are you, Jason?
Glad to be back. I'm
Yeah.
squeezing in my lunch. This is totally product placement. We're gonna have more, but no. We have a liftoff going on today, so it ends up being pretty busy between this and otherwise. And there's only so many slots to eat, so here we are.
Yeah. For those of you for those of them people listening who don't
Us?
know I'm like stumbling with words today. What is
Yeah.
liftoff? What is liftoff and how is it going?
Yeah. So Liftoff is a program we put together to help train entrepreneurs to raise their first $1 million. And at the end of the day, raising capital is a sales process. But we want to help people understand maybe what that means. And a lot of times, coming in as a founder, you might be super technical and never had to do like all the stages of a sale. And so we want to arm people with the knowledge of this is what our process looks like. These are some best practices, but then also give them insight into how the buyers of equity think. And the buyers of equity are angel investors, venture capitalists, CVCs. And so when you kind of understand the customer profile, maybe it makes it easier to sell them equity. And that kind of permeates your entire financing strategy from like, do you go out and raise a safe note, or do you go off and value your company at $100 million? All of that kind of comes into play when you're ultimately making an offer into the market for a piece of your company. And so we're trying to arm people with the knowledge so they can make the right decisions.
Hmm.
And then at the end of the program, hopefully we take everything they've learned and put that into a simulation where we're going to kind of simulate a marketplace of investors and the founders offering equity in their business. And we're not going to play with real money. We're going to play with essentially monopoly money, and see who walks away with a deal at the end of the simulation. And it's a real marketplace. There are real winners, the real losers, and not everyone gets the price they want. So hopefully it'll be a good prep for when they have to do it in the real world.
Yeah. No, first of all, I've just been really impressed by the demand for this course. We weren't sure how many people would sign up first time we're doing it. And we are at over capacity basically in the room. A lot of interest, not only just like members who know us, but beyond. A
Mhm.
lot of people who've started these tech companies. Here in Houston, that are discovering us. And, as I've sat in some of these sessions, Jason, understanding like the varying degree of knowledge people have about fundraising, about starting a company, and how, things that, if we've been in this space of supporting startups and supporting them with fundraising, get very familiar with like terms that they're basically not familiar with because they're there to build that technology
Mhm.
and build that company, but haven't really thought about the fundraising aspect. And the general feedback that I've gotten from the participants has been that it's been very, very valuable. We had a session where we had Latham and Watkins come in,
Mhm.
Scott Gregg, and he actually line by line went through a term sheet, um, and it was just, I mean, so much to learn for all of us, and even for me. So I just want to say that, yeah, if you are interested in kind of getting ahead, if you are not fundraising yet but plan to fundraise at some point, and even if you're not fundraising, just good to know what these terms are that you have to be
Mhm.
familiar with, and also get to talk with others who because you might not think that you need to fundraise now, you're bootstrapping, but at some point there's some kind of transaction that you will make. So it can be beneficial to know about it early.
Yeah, I think what was great last week is we had Mitra Miller in from the Houston Angel Network, and she kind of painted for us like the funnel that they have to manage. I think she was I think it was something like 1,000 to 1,500 deals that they receive inbound a year. They fund 16 like as a group, and so there's a very tight funnel that you have to go through. One of the things that was interesting to me was they also charge $100 application fee, and the primary reason they charge an application fee is to create a filter for people who maybe aren't as serious about starting a business, or to make people really think hard, like, is the Houston Angel Network a fit for me? And they found that it helped filter out things like everything from food truck to food services to maybe not venture scale businesses, but businesses that still want to raise capital. Um, and so there's like little things in a business model you can do sometimes to kind of qualify, is the other person on the other side of the transaction serious? And $100 is like, yeah, it's money for a founder, but if you really want to fund your business and want that opportunity, um, maybe it's not so much of a barrier. So I thought that was interesting.
Did you say
Um,
they look through 1,000 deals a year?
1500, I think, get
1,500.
filtered, and
Okay.
every one of them gets kind of feedback from the venture associate over there. Um,
Mm, mm,
which, like, if you think of like $100, like if that's an hour, like more than an hour of time for an associate, like that's kind of that's how you're getting serious eyes on something as well.
mm, mm,
And then they walked us through their process, like how they bring a deal to committee, kind of what needs to be behind a deal for it to kind of make it to the full membership. And it's a little bit democracy, a little bit of advocacy, but I think in many ways the reality is only that many deals get through a year because there needs to be enough kind of momentum behind a deal to get it funded. And one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting is the Houston Angel Network is the place you should go as a network to fill out around. Once you have a champion or a deal lead already identified, like you don't do that through the membership program or through the Houston Angel Network program. You do that to gain kind of the leverage of the 100 plus investors who are in the room. And so they shouldn't be your first stop, but there should be a stop you kind of queue up on your way into raising a round. And so for your first seed round, usually you want to find a lead. You want to queue up like 20 or 30% of your capital. And when you're within 60 days or 90 days of closing and knowing that you have a deal that's going to come together, that's the time to go into Houston Angel Network and try to get that leverage and kind of fill out the rest of it. Um, and a lot of times they'll be looking for deal flow from VCs, where again the angels are accretive. I think it's a strategy that's distinct to Houston Angel Network. Other angel networks have their own strategy,
mm.
but it was interesting that even within that segment, they had their own view on like how the network creates value.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah. So, what's their timeline like? Because once you've it can take you a while to identify a lead as a startup, but once
Mhm.
you have that lead, then you want to be able to fill that up pretty quickly.
Yeah,
So are you able to kind of speed track at Houston Angel Network and say, hey, I have a deal. Like, can I get in front of your investors quicker than like
yeah.
going through the regular process?
I think I did
Mm,
not, take a picture of the snap of the
mm,
timeline, but I
mm.
think generally it's like a 45 to 60-day cycle,
Okay.
and the reason is, like, it comes in the website. When it enters the website, you should email your champion or your friends within the Houston Angel Network, like,
Mm,
email Mitra or email, whoever's on the energy committee so they know to pay attention to it and attend the, committee meeting to highlight it.
right.
And just the cycle of those meetings, like, they're, like, once a month. Anyone can kind of attend those subcommittees meetings, but like they just happen only that fast. And so if your champion isn't in the room to kind of back you up and sponsor you, like you're not going to make it in that cycle.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would say like 45 days because it's got to get into the subcommittee, and then from subcommittee it's got to get to the full group. And that's just the reality of angels, like, are not doing it as a full-time job. That is something they're interested in, but there's only so many times they're going to get together to kind of work through things.
Yeah.
So it's good and bad. It doesn't mean you can't raise from people within the angel network as individuals because they all make the decision individually. It's just like you go through that process to um, kind of get leverage. And I think with any seed round, the first time you're doing it, you want to do a phased close. So the first close for those first 300, you kind of want to do immediately, but you want to keep the round open for like 6 months so you can kind of pull up these. I don't want to call them stragglers, but these groups that have their own processes.
Mhm.
Like once you have that lead in place, then you kind of get everyone else in hand. Um, if you're doing more traditional equity financing, where you did have like a VC in hand, they are not going to want to necessarily put in their money until they know the rest of the round is filled out. That might be part of your diligence process. You're starting diligence, you're starting initial document review. You want to simultaneously then start to pull in angel groups. And
Mm.
just because the initial terms and all those other things can sometimes take 60 days on their own to kind of work out, like if you get the timing right, you'll also be presenting to the kind of angel groups while your deal is literally in live negotiation on definitive documents.
Mm, mm,
So it's a lot of work. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, getting the timing right can kind of save you
yeah,
time on the back end, but it's also
mm,
just very intense,
yeah,
especially when you're trying to like run a business, right? And so
mm,
that's what we're trying to teach people in Liftoff is like there are these sequences that you have control over. But it's a matter of you prioritizing them.
yeah. And it just as a founder for them to know that, there are groups like
Mhm.
Angel, Houston Angel Network that exists, there's Thai, there are others, and you want, as you're maybe prioritizing VCs like funds, you might also want to look at angel networks alongside them, just to kind of warm up that relationship for when you're ready, and you can kind of speed that up. And like you said, I mean, from some of the meetings that I've been at Han, you need a lead from their side, right? Like a champion.
Mhm.
They're not going to bring something in front of the committee, or they're not going to bring you in front of the whole group to present unless there's someone in there who says, I believe in this. Um, I want that. I want to bring it forward.
Yeah, and that's
Mm,
that's the way to really move it
mm,
forward, and that's why you need to network ahead of time to build those relationships
mhm.
early.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is also like in Texas, there's a lot of angel groups. There's obviously Houston, there's CTAN out of Austin, there's the Aggie Angel Network, there's Texas Angel Group out of Dallas. Um, and then you have some other groups that have less good deal flow. Like there's a group out of I think the Padre Island area, South Padre Island area. There's a Texacoma Angels. There's probably like 20 or 30 overall, and some of them are small. Some of them only have like 20 members. But the folks who are smaller don't necessarily get the same deal flow as folks in Houston. And so if you're gonna hit Houston, you might as well hit the rest of Texas, to kind of gather those checks as you need to pull the round together.
Mm. Okay, good. Um, Last week, also coming back from Memorial Weekend, on Tuesday, we had our investor program launch.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this was happening in parallel to our liftoff, at the Ion, and we brought together about 15 to 20 investors, at the investor studio at the Ion, as we're launching our investor program. And the whole mission around the investor program is, as we're supporting this founder ecosystem, we also need to make sure that we can unlock the capital that's in Houston,
Hmm.
and bring these investors together so that we can, evolve together on the type of maturity that's needed to actually fund, especially on hard tech companies that are coming from the area. Because we can all go to the coast to get our funding, but at the same time, um, we also need to cultivate and develop our investor ecosystem here. And the way we plan on running that is that we're going to do quarterly, we call them syndication meetings, where we
Hmm.
actually bring in deals. So companies that are like live funding. And I think we were very lucky this time around. We had like four really good quality companies pitching, or three companies pitching, and one of them was the investor pitching a deal that they're looking at. And that's also something that we want to encourage more going forward, is that we're going to do, maybe two deals, that's a founder themselves pitch, and then two deals that the investors bring forward. And I and our investors really like that, because they like to see what's going on inside the mind of other investors when they're making a decision, because that's our opportunity to learn and grow together, and also see, what are the things that they're seeing that we haven't seen, um, and for the investor who's pitching that deal to be able to round up some more support for that deal. So they're, if they want to lead, they will also want to get a feel of how many other investors would be willing to come on with them to actually close this deal. And so it's an
Yeah,
opportunity for them to sell that deal also. Mm.
and I think for a lot of folks, it like one of the things we were learning, just running Liftoff was entrepreneurs. Just I think people in general don't understand why an investor wouldn't lead. And so that was a question that came up a couple times. And leading is expensive, right?
Mm.
Like you have to like put in time, you have to get in legal resources, um, and you have to have expertise. And then on top of that, like you have to feel like you know enough to understand the risks of a business. Is it going to make money? And so I think a lot of times there are investors who might be interested in a subject matter, but they don't necessarily feel confident that they are the most qualified to make the decision, like to make the leading of a round. And so, a typical round, I think, does typically have 6 to 12 investors involved, and the smallest check will be de minimis, but a lot of times you do want to bring in other people to spread the risk around, but then also because other investors do have kind of value around the table they can bring, but they just don't have enough domain knowledge to make the leadership kind of take that leadership position. And so what we're doing with that investor program is kind of bringing people together to kind of pull in the talent or the expertise that individual investors might have, but not necessarily have a or trying to remove that barrier around maybe they don't have the expertise to lead on a specific deal. And that's what kind of bringing these leads together with potential other followers. That's where we're going to create value in the ecosystem.
Hmm. Yeah. And also because, we have a pretty thin investor ecosystem here in Houston, especially for early stage. So if you look at our corporate CVCs that do invest quite a bit, they invest in companies Series A, B, and C and above.
Hmm.
It's really where we need help is pre-seed, seed companies, even Series A, is how some of these emerging funds can come together and fund some of these companies that are coming, out of Houston, and elsewhere. But in particular, supporting the local talent that often is not goes unseen from other investors that are not in Houston.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Good.
Yeah, so very good success, very good feedback. I think the investors really appreciated it, and it was very good for the companies that were able to pitch to be put in front of such a group of well-renowned investors in Houston. Um, so I'm excited to officially get these our investor members on board and continue with our program. So if you're interested in joining, please reach out to any one of us at Energy Tech Nexus, and we'll send you the information.
Good. Um, no, it was a great program. I think everyone had a really good time and really learned a lot. So it was good. People were
Hmm.
excited about the companies who were
Yeah.
pitching. So
Yeah. No, I'm really excited that we finally got this going. And also, like, looking at the amount of people who showed up, who made the time to do it in person, and the feedback, they really felt like this is something that we need. Um, there are some investors who couldn't join, so there's also need for maybe some virtual programming. So that's something that we're going to do as part of the program is further deep dives into some of these companies that the investors were interested in will take place virtually. And we also want to give investors outside of Houston the opportunity to listen to the pitches. So that will also be included in part of the programming.
mm, good.
Um, yeah. In terms of what's coming in the summer, anything exciting that we have planned, Jason?
Exciting is I think Pilotathon is kind of on the other side of summer.
Mm,
Summer itself will be a little slow, but I think we're starting to ramp up for the Pilotathon pitch contest. That's
mm,
essentially happening second week of September as part of
yeah.
Energy Climate and Startup Week. We're also going to be launching a co-pilot program. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. So really excited about the Pilotathon because that's really where it's going to be our signature event going forward every year. And really, we really want to polish up that framework of getting companies from all around the world to come to Houston and pitch, because Houston is the place where we're going to pilot, because we have the industry here, we have the infrastructure here, we have the talent here to run these pilots, and we have, all these corporates ready and interested. But what we don't have is a good process. So that's
Mm,
the vision with the Pilotathon, is how can we come up with a process that can speed track a pilot from an idea to actual implementation and execution. And so we have corporate partners that have already come on board and said, yes, they're willing to be on the other side, looking and judging and evaluating these pilot pitches, and then committing to some kind of post engagement with these pilots that pitch. So we're going to have 4 or 5 tracks in all the different categories. We're looking around for pilots. Anything basically connected to energy transition, you should apply. Check out our website, www.pilotathon.com. And if you think like you don't see your category that quickly kind of jumps out at you, just reach out. Most likely it does. Most likely it fits. because we're trying to be inclusive of all technologies at this stage. So just apply, and we're also updating our website as we get more information on our corporate partners. Along with that, the co-pilot program that you mentioned, so that's in connection to a grant that we won together with by NREL and Wells Fargo, the N2 IN2 incubator, where we are. It's an accelerator program that we're launching together with the Pilotathon, where it's a 9-month program. And to be qualified for that, our focus is really energy resilience and access, and being able to pilot in underserved communities. And so at the end of the 9 months, we're going to match you with, in the duration of those 9 months, you not only get to pitch at the Pilotathon, but we also match you with companies and partners who can then pilot that technology with you. So, this could be like, if you're looking at cities, it could be waste management type of technologies. It could be anything connected to water management and power management, and being able to bring power, but clean power, to areas where currently that might not be available. So in particular communities that are most impacted by climate change, how could we make sure that they're also getting the advantage of these technologies? So really excited about that. You can go again on the Pilotathon website, and you'll see on the top co-pilot, click on that and apply. You don't need to submit 2 applications. We will look at all our Pilotathon applications and see if you're applicable for co-pilot. We'll let you know, and vice versa. If you apply for co-pilot, one of the things you're going to have to do is also pitch at the Pilotathon, and we're going to give you training on how to pitch for the Pilotathon, and how to scale, how to manufacture, all of those things. So we'll also have an info session on this. I'm going into quite some detail, but we'll have a more detailed info session on the Pilotathon and co-pilot on the 19th of June and the 23rd. No, wait, are those dates? 13th of
Yeah.
June and the 23rd of June. So those 2 dates we will do during this Thunderwatch. We'll bring in Juliana and Pyle, who will be leading the co-pilot. And then for the Pilotathon, we'll bring in Ingrid, who is the chair for our Pilotathon.
Good. Yeah, no, it's going to be a culmination of the next 3 months of focus for us, is to get that program together, both on the Pilotathon, but also making for a good launch of Copilot. So really looking forward to it. This week, I think we also have Scott Craig from Lathan and Watkins coming in. He's doing open office hours with membership, and folks should participate. It's a good time to have your questions answered, or just get some free advice on like what legal strategy you should think about for your business, even if you haven't started one yet. So we'll be doing that. We should have a good lunch on Wednesday. So excited for that. What else do we have going on?
We have
That
Determined
you
to
would-
Lead lunch coming
Yes.
up on the 20th of June, and that we have a presentation focused on geothermal. Actually, let me bring up my Luma so I can give you the right information on there. So the Determined to Lead lunches, again, are lunches where we feature women leaders who are people of influence within energy transition. So yeah, we have Mei Song Yang, who will be coming and talking to us about why geothermal energy is important, especially right now, why the time is now for geothermal. So really excited about that. And she's also written a book called Oilfield Technology and Asset Repurposing Feasibility for Geothermal Energy Production, or something like
She
that.
needs
But it
someone
doesn't
needs to do
know.
some little marketing on the name. No, I'm sure it's a great book. It sounds like a case study. But
Yeah.
speaking of geothermal, I think our friends at the Society for
Mm.
Low Carbon Technologies, on the 5th, which is Thursday, is doing a session on grid transition and talking about the impact of renewables, batteries, and geothermal. I don't quite
Mm.
remember where it's at. It's at the Equinor Houston offices, and I think that this is
Mm.
timely because we're talking about how AI and data centers are going to affect the grid demand here in Texas, and then broadly. but we see where a lot of the investment in geothermal is coming from is either coming from small energy companies, but honestly, it's the off takers, the buyers of that energy, the data centers that are really catalyzing that market. And so,
Mm.
looking forward to Determined to Lead, looking forward to learning more about the book. But there's obviously it's an area of deep discussion today. So glad to
Mm.
see that event going on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
No, I think I can
Okay,
keep
I'll
going.
keep going. Next week, I'm going to be up in Austin for Tech Connect World Expo, and I'm specifically focusing on the I think tech transfer out of the universities. I think there's actually like 4 members of the Nexus up there, kind of chatting with folks. But I think there are 200 or
Mm.
so technologies that are out and on the edge of commercialization. So I'm excited to kind of walk the show. I don't think I've been to this one before, and excited to go back up to Austin. I will admit half the reason we're going is so I can stop for barbecue on the way up. But we will definitely report back. I won't be. I don't think we're doing a Thunderwatch next week, but we'll be sharing
No.
kind of what we see up there, and I'm sure they're going to do a good job. And then on Wednesday, we're probably going to do an open town hall with the community. And instead of our regular field trip, what we do is we share kind of the updates that have happened within TechNexus as an organization, kind of what's happening with the community, and share a little bit about what to look forward to and what people are excited about just within their own businesses. So we'll do that on the town hall on Wednesday of next week. Good.
Yeah. 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 And so those of you guys who are in town, please join for that because that's a great way to learn more about the Pilotathon, the co-pilot, and all the other upcoming events.
Yeah. Good. I don't think I have anything else to share right
Good.
now. Still a lot going on.
Yeah. No,
Mm.
I think that's, yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of programming underway. Um, and look forward to, yeah, being on here again in two
All right.
weeks to share the
All right.
latest.
Sounds good.